Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the Bell 407. It's really, really exciting that the Bell 407 now works. For the longest time, you couldn't start the thing, and there are still some weird little starter issues here and there, and I hope we don't run into too many of them when we get going. With that being said, let's climb inside. Now, the Bell 407, for those of you who know the Bell helicopters, if you think of this kind of like a civilian Huey, you kind of have the right idea. This is actually a more narrow body, and it's a little bit shorter of a helicopter as well. But it does have some of that lineage as well. First things first, we're going to come down here, check to make sure the fuel is turned on. We're just going to confirm that visually there. Then we're going to reach above our heads. We have a couple switches. We're going to make sure our battery is set. We're going to make sure our generator is turned on. Go ahead and hit our anti-collision lights. You're going to get a bunch of very angry alarms. So when that happens, don't panic. Just push the mute button. If you wish to test to make sure your lights work, all you have to do is press and hold these buttons here, and you can check very, very quickly to see whether or not they're working properly. I can see we're not carrying an awful lot of fuel on board, so let's go ahead and fix that real fast. We'll go ahead and load our aircraft up with a little bit more fuel. And apparently we're not carrying anybody either, so we'll carry a quarter cargo here. This aircraft is much easier to fly if you weigh it down a little bit. Trust me on that one. So with that taken care of, we're going to float back above our heads here. We've got a bunch of switches. I've had some interesting problems with the switches on this thing, so I'm going to do what works for me. I'm going to hit these two, 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, we're going to ignore the logo lights unless there's a reason you need that. With that taken care of, we're ready to start it. Starting is really, really simple. You're just going to click the switch forward, monitor your RPM. When it gets to about 20, you're going to twist this. Here we go. Click that. You can see right away that our NG is starting to shoot up, and we're just waiting just a moment for it to get to about 20, 18, 19, 20, and we're going to go ahead and click that. It makes a little happy sound there to sort of let you know that it's starting to kind of kick in here. This is basically our throttle. This is a governed aircraft with a gas turbine, so it's going to do a lot of the heavy lifting as far as that stuff goes on its own, but like I said, I'm not going to worry about it too much as everything kind of gets going. All right, here, we're going to go ahead and pull that, cage that to center that a little bit. We're going to make sure this is all set as well. Looks good there, looks good there. Just want to update my heading. We're looking at a 246 today. Now we're just flying here from LaGuardia down to Manhattan proper. We're going to go settle down. Should be a pretty easy flight for us today. There we go, 2412, 246 is going to be our heading. Nice. That's spinning up smoothly. The GPS in this one, as you can see, still does not work. I'm not going to worry about it. I can fly without it. And now that we've gotten some good speed, we're just waiting for basically the rotor RPM to settle. And now you can see it's shooting up pretty darn quick here. And an RPM warning that checks. Checking all that. Lots of warning lights on this thing. That is for sure. Looks good, looks good. So let's reset anything we need to see. We can change mode, chronometer, timer. Looks good to me. I don't know why that's decided to go to 100 RPM, 100 NG, but that's okay. Just about to get up to full speed. Actually, I have to put my earmuffs on, also known as turning my own volume down. All right, so this is the hardest to fly helicopter of all the Microsoft Flight Simulator at this time. It's just kind of an interesting little challenge for a lot of different reasons. I'm still a little confused as to why that's that high. I don't quite get that. Let me go ahead and feed in a little bit of throttle here and put that up to the maximum position. Ah, that was the magic that it took here. This one's really, 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 really challenging to fly. You know, the reason it is so hard to fly is because you're going to be dealing with the best of basically sensitivity with the worst of high performance. You know, when you put the two together, you get a very challenging helicopter. So when you are playing with this, one of the things I would recommend doing is definitely consider changing your joystick control knobs a little bit. Like you can see here, I don't give just the tiniest little nudge, and it is not a very linear response. And they do kind of dampen that a little bit. But you can see here, the whole helicopter basically jumped up with that little tug, giving you an idea of just how crazy sensitive this is. So the first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to move the cyclic a little bit. And what you're going to observe here is the fact it's going to yell at me to say the cyclic is out of center. If I let go of the cyclic, you'll notice it snaps back, and it actually, you can see it. We go like this, boing, 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 boing. It'll tell you whether or not it is centered. This is kind of handy, but the reality is when you take off with a helicopter, you're not actually taking off with a centered cyclic. Usually you're going to be taking off with what they call the J. So we pull the cyclic towards us, and we kind of come to the left, and then we go forward a little bit. So we're kind of like a little down into the left, if you want kind of the correct position. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to gently bring in the collective. And again, because this is gas turbine helicopter, there's a little bit of hesitation. And what you're trying to feel is where it starts to get light on the skids. And I can see all my RPMs are not coming up whatsoever there. There we go. Come on. There he goes. This is being rude to me. For some reason, my torque, there it goes. Come on, torque. There you go. Nice. I was being a little too gentle. All right, so what we're trying to do is kind of feel that moment when that helicopter wants to unstick. And again, you can kind of feel it in the torque pedals. See how it's starting to get really light on those skids? And what you're trying to do is figure out, what does it want to do? Does it want to kind of go forward? Does it want to go sideways? In my case, it wants to kind of go that way. So again, we're just going to give it a little bit. About 6 inches off the ground, and we're getting a little bit of skid. In the real world, the skids are a little bit stickier. And then we just pull ourselves into a gentle little hover. Again, we're just rotor and ground effect at this point. And you can see this helicopter has a noticeable left tilt in order to keep this thing steady here. All right, we're going to hold that hover for a second, just kind of getting a feel. I always like to pick a light in the distance and just use that as kind of my reference point. That looks pretty good to me. So we're going to go ahead and take a nice, gentle left turn. Again, with this one, you have to just learn to be slow. There we go. We're going to go ahead and tilt the controls forward, take a little bit of cyclic. And what you're trying to do is just get transition here. And there's my transition right there. We start to get a little bit of lift. And that's all it takes. Nice and simple. And again, we want to kind of come out of that skid that we're flying. I never know with flight sim as far as the ball goes. It always seems to be correct. There it goes. Very nice. All right, let's go ahead and take our nice and gentle right turn. We're going to go say hi to the tower. Keeping our speed about 45, 50 is going to keep us inside of that nice, smooth area. Anything slower than that, and this helicopter is going to start struggling a little bit, but that's okay. And again, now that we're moving, you're going to find the controls go from too sensitive to basically not sensitive enough. You'll know exactly what I mean the first time you fly this helicopter. All right, we're going to go smoothly apply some torque here. We're only at about 57 right now. Keep an eye on our gas temperature. Usually that's the first thing to get too hot. About 75 torque. That's plenty. We're just going to be on our way. To my left just a little bit. So there's a lovely, lovely Manhattan right off our 12 o'clock. All right. So one of the things we'll do is we'll do a couple basic maneuvers in our helicopter as we're kind of making our way towards our destination here. I'm going to go hold about 100 knots at about 75 torque. You can see we're well within our limits as far as MGT and torque goes. And this thing is just going to subtly basically make its way up. We're getting about 100 knots, I should say 1,000 feet per minute climb. At about 100, you can climb as low as 50, 60. That's usually not too much trouble with it. You're going to be a little bit warmer, and the reason you're going to be a bit warmer is on account of the fact that, again, you're just not having as much air move through the engine at this given time. I'm just going to enjoy that nice, relaxing climb there. Like I said, about 500 feet per minute. We're really not working too hard. That's about 800 feet right there. I'm going to go ahead and push the nose over it. I'm just going to back the torque off just a little bit. And now we're just going to enjoy the easy part of the flight, which is cruise. Now, as I was mentioning, I have a problem for some reason where I'm not able to press enter in the GPS. You saw me fiddle with that about 100 times. That's problematic because unless you have external controls, it's going to be very, very difficult to do any real navigating other than conventional, but that's perfectly fine because conventional is awesome. Speaking of conventional, let's enjoy some of our beautiful sights here. So we're kind of cruising. Once you get going, you can basically relieve the pressure on your anti-torque pedals with this helicopter. It is just going to cruise so nicely for you, and it just goes. Like, I am not working at all right now, and I'm doing 130 knots, and everything is inside the green right now, just to give you an idea of how smooth this helicopter is. Once you get it going, most of the work you're going to spend on this helicopter is just learning how to get it to a hover, and you'll see that exact fun once we get to our destination, which we'll be at in just a few seconds, because we're traveling at about 130 knots, which is incredible. All right, come swing this way. And again, we're crossing over here. We got the Williamsburg Bridge. Basically coming up here, we got, of course, the other two, the Manhattan Bridge, and, of course, the Brooklyn Bridge, way, way off there in the distance. Our destination today is in the opposite side of the Brooklyn Bridge, so we're just going to enjoy this nice, gentle ride over in that direction. In the real world, of course, LaGuardia would basically be hanging us off over to Newark or even JFK at this point. JFK is more off to our left, though, so we don't have to worry about that as much. Okay, looking pretty good. Like I said, Williamsburg is right off for 12 o'clock there. And then, like I said, after that is Manhattan, and then there's Brooklyn. Brooklyn Bridge is right there. Let me zoom in a little bit. Brooklyn! That's all I can think of. You can also see our destination, which is that downtown helipad, which is going to be awesome for us. Now, with a helicopter like this, of this speed, descent is something you really, really have to do early. So as you notice, I've released a little bit of attention on the cyclic, and all of a sudden we're firing ourselves up at 1,000 feet per minute again. So I'm going to go ahead and back the collective up. I'm not going to push the nose down. Do not push the nose down. Let me show you why. If you push the nose down, you are going to go like this, which means the rotor is going to stay in the same place, but your tail is going to reach up to meet the rotor. If your tail reaches up to meet the rotor, I have some interesting news. You're going to find it very difficult to operate your helicopter safely. In our case, what we'd have to do is try to keep as much forward motion as we can, take advantage of the weather vane effect, and basically have to stick it in the water somewhere, and that would be awful, and we'd probably get killed. So that'd be very unpleasant. All right, there is our destination. So in the real world, of course, you could call up the little AWAS and find out which direction the sock is going, aka where's the wind. We're going to assume that the wind is basically coming from behind me today, so we can do a nice little right traffic pattern here for this one. So I'm going to set myself up at about 500 feet per minute. And again, a lot of this helicopters, you just have to kind of do it early, otherwise it creeps up on you is the best way to describe it. There we go, about 500 feet per minute. This is very smooth here. That's one thing I like about the Bell is once you get it going, it's nice. That last 2 feet, it's going to be the hardest 2 feet you've ever earned. And again, if you see your vertical speed creep up, just back the collective up. Don't touch the cyclic. I can't tell you that enough when you're learning to fly these darn things. And for those of you who move off to DCS to go fly things like the AH-64, you're really going to appreciate the don't touch the cyclic. Trust me on that. All right, back it up a little bit. We're also going to be slowing down a little bit. A little bit easier. There's the lovely, lovely Statue of Liberty. I saw the miniature version when I was in Paris, France. I thought it was actually pretty cool. A little bit slower, Delightful. There's Governor's Island right off my left wing here. Well, I don't have a left wing, I have a rotary wing. And we're going to enjoy this turn. When you turn in this helicopter, you will lose about 50 knots. I can't warn you enough that there's a really strong tendency with yourself to overturn the helicopter. Be careful on that. All right, let's start getting ready for our transition to the helipad. The helipad is on the right end, to the east end of the pier here. As we come out here, we're just doing a couple things at once, so we want to keep our translational lift going here, so try to keep it above 40, but we're also descending at the same time. It's really just a constant battle between those two forces. I shift my position a little bit on my pedals to give myself a little bit more response as I do this, and I'm very, very careful with my throttle as we start to approach. Now, what you're trying to do is 2 things at once. You're trying to basically settle on that pad, and you're trying to slow down at the same time. Don't do that. It's too much work. Let me show you the better way to do it. Go ahead and slow yourself down and get yourself into a half hover out of transition. There we go. See how we've transitioned like that? Now, when we're in this mode, we can come in very gently, and we're already under control, so you're not constantly battling. Now, I know if this were the Vietnam War and people were shooting up at you, you wouldn't have pulled the maneuver I just pulled. But I find when you're first learning, it is just so much simpler to bring it basically into a half hover, assuming you can, and just gently come down than it is to just kind of rip and land like aggressive 1980s power action movie. Like, you don't need to do that. Remember, you have passengers too, and they get nervous when you do stuff like that, just so you're aware. All right, peripheral vision is the win here. Remember, you're up a little higher than you think you are. Rotor and ground effect. Whoops, that was really bad timing. And we are down, just like that. Fantastic. What a great helicopter. So with that taken care of, we can then go ahead and settle in for a landing here. Now I can release the tension of my toesies. Pop this to the off position. It would not take long, by the way, for this thing to spool down. And now you can see here it has no effect on this whatsoever. But the moment you click this thing to off, it would start coming off. Good news for us, we can just do one of those, and that will do the exact same effect. Of course, once the fuel stops flowing. Reach up above our heads as everything starts to set. We'll pull over 2 boost pumps. And we basically work backwards as far as our different switches and things like that go. Oh, we don't want to shut off hydraulics. That would make the guy after us a little insane. Of course, if we shut that off, that will come off on its own. And now the rotor will slowly come down to its full speed. And once it gets slow enough, there's this lovely handle here, and you pull that straight down. And what that's going to do is go ahead and engage the brake, come to a stop, and then you can be Mr. VIP running over here real quickly and going, "Good morning, sir," and, kind of opening up the little hatch and everything like that, and sending the CEO on their way. Enjoy.